Hello. Third video. I believe it's the third video. Just want to make it super quick, but I've had some people talking with me or talking to me, asking me, how do I get started with being a catch wrestler? So essentially, kind of like this topic is, so you want to be a catch wrestler? Um, I'm going to be straightforward with you. It's not necessarily an easy path. I do feel like it's rewarding. I think that it is a rewarding path. I've already spoken on some of the stuff that I feel needs to change somewhat, uh, but I do think it's rewarding, but I do want you to know that it's not easy. It's not easy being a catch wrestler for multiple reasons that I'm not going to get into necessarily, as far as political stuff goes and everything. But if you want to be a catch wrestler, I guess I can share with you how it came about into my life. Um, So from a very young age, I used to roughhouse with my family. Uh, Somehow I was fortunate enough to have an older cousin that knew about catch wrestling, but back then we just knew it as like legitimate professional wrestling. So essentially he would be like, this stuff has worked. And we all knew it was worked, but he always is like, listen, there's a real professional wrestling martial art style out there. Like you can learn how to do this for real. And when I say I was young, I'm talking like 7 to 10 to 12. Like we used to roughhouse like crazy, and we just knew about it. So as an aside, like I knew how to do it. Throw a German. I know how to throw a German suplex before I had a driver's license. Like I was still in elementary school when I was throwing German suplex. I knew what a Fujiwara armbar was for years, and it took me until my 20s until I realized who Fujiwara was. I knew how to do the armbar though, maybe not efficiently, but I definitely knew the work. I knew how to work Fujiwara armbar. Um, and there's more than just that, like the Taz mission, whatever. There's just a lot of. I know it's judo, but just as a aside. So, as from a very young age, I was already exposed to the notion that professional wrestling, while being a work, did have a legitimate martial art out there, and people like Ken Shamrock and others trained it. It's just something I knew in elementary school. Uh, Fast forward into my 20s, I first stepped into an MMA gym when I was 20 years old. I made friends with a guy named Brandon McLeese. Uh, he at the time trained some various grappling arts. Him and his buddies. He trained some sambo at New York. I don't know what it's called. I think it's New York Combat Sambo. It's Stephen Kepfer. I believe that's where Riley Bodycomb came out of. He trained there while he visited New York. Trained some judo under some people. I can't remember their names. Maybe Mark Tripp is the guy's name. Maybe I can't. Now I'm kind of talking out my butt a little bit. So because this is not my story to tell. However, this guy he liked Sakuraba, liked Josh Barnett, and at the time I had for pretty much forgotten my history of like catch wrestling. And anyway, the opportunity came up early on, maybe January 2010 era or something. I can't really quite remember the date, but something came up really early on where he had the opportunity to go travel out to a camp and train with Billy Robinson. And he trained with Billy Robinson, and he came back, and I could tell instantly that his grappling style was changed. And so like right then and there, I was pretty much like, yeah, this is going to be it, man. This is the truth, And I was at that time that like I was doing a lot of like the YouTube jujitsu stuff, right? So I told my training partner at the time, and somewhat a coach of mine, I suppose, because he came back and taught me catch wrestling. But I told him that like there's going to be a lot of stuff on the bottom game that's going to look like 10th Planet, and there's going to be a lot of stuff on the top game in 10 plus years that's going to look like catch wrestling. I could just tell. I was incorrect. The reason I was incorrect though is because I didn't realize how much leg locks were going to like just revolutionize the game at that moment. Um. Anyway, we trained catch wrestling after he traveled to that camp, and we did nothing but train catch wrestling after he traveled to that camp. He went to another camp, I believe, without me, and came back. We did nothing but train what Billy Robinson taught. Now, when I say he traveled out, we live in the middle of nowhere in Kentucky. I live in Southern Ohio now. But I'm talking about traveling to, like, I can't remember, maybe Salt Lake City, maybe Denver, Colorado. I can't remember the places. Then the opportunity came for me to go to a Billy Robinson seminar. Me and my training partner drove from the middle of nowhere, Kentucky to New Jersey, trained with Billy. So essentially what I'm trying to get at is you have to find somebody who's willing to train it with you dedicatedly and take it seriously, even when it looks funny, sounds funny, doesn't make sense. You got to try it anyway, because 99% of the time, a year down the road or even a month down the road, you're going to figure out that the reason this stuff that looks funny, sounds funny, doesn't make sense, it will all click while you're doing it. So we had to travel. Like I said, it was at one point, me and two other of my training partners, ended up being 40 hours we drove to the West Coast. This is after Billy Robinson passed, but we went out there and we trained with Wade Chalice and spent some time with Sam Cresson and Jesse Mraz. It's not easy though. So my point of all this is it's not something that you can just say you're doing without putting the reps in. It's not something you can just kind of like, well, I guess that's what I'm doing now. And, I think it is appreciated when these people are going out and saying they're a catch wrestler without any kind of formal training. However, that can have a reverse effect where it makes you look bad, makes catch wrestling look bad. We trained with Billy and wrote everything down that we could, try to store it in our brains as much as we can. And some of it is, I believe that, as far as like grappling is concerned, I kind of eventually learned how to learn. And I became kind of like a autodidact, to use that word that Josh Barnett said in an interview not too long ago that I picked up. And that just means that you're able to teach yourself these things. You can be self-taught on a lot of these things. And I feel like I have that ability, especially that's kind of what learn how to learn means. So if you want to be a catch wrestler, you got to put the reps in. You got to travel. If you want to travel, train with me, you guys are welcome to. Currently, I'm at 2 different locations. One is in Williamsburg, Ohio. The other is in Maysville, Kentucky. I have other people who I've trained that live in the Lexington, Kentucky area. I've as far as like people I've trained, one of them's traveling the world currently. His name's Akira, and he's a deathmatch wrestler of all things. He's also been in Bloodsport. I have helped partially to train. I am a coach of Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful. So you can ask about me. You can ask around about me. Who's this Ohio Valley catch wrestling guy? So you got to travel out, and you can travel to train with me. You can travel to train with Josh Barnett. That's the one I recommend the most. You can travel to Wigan. I don't know exactly where they're at now, but Snake Pit, Wigan. You can go train with Roy Wood and his boys. I think that's a very intelligent move to make as well. You can go to Hideki Suzuki in Japan. There's not a ton of people though, man. Sam Cresson is probably more of a private kind of guy. You can't really train with him. He doesn't really take public too much. But he does seminars. If you can find a seminar that he's doing with Scientific Wrestling, I highly recommend training with Sam Cresson. I think he is one of the most unheralded guys when it comes to catch wrestling. He was a black belt under Chris Howder before he even trained with Billy Robinson. And then has since, I believe he's either a third or fourth degree black belt now under Chris Howder. Jesse Mraz is on the East Coast. He's at a 10th Planet place out there. I can't exactly remember where it's at, but look him up. I believe it's in the Virginia area. Johnny Buck also has a 10th Planet school now, ironically enough. And he is North Carolina, maybe? I believe he's North Carolina. John Strickland's out in the North Carolina area as well. He does a completely separate branch from anything I've talked about, though. Anyway, if you want to be a catch wrestler, you got to put the time in. Get on the mats, compete when you can, travel, train, write this stuff down. Uh, Start doing some squats, start doing some push-ups, start doing some burpees. You got to put the rounds in. Uh, Stop using words like Americana and Kimura. You know, that's step number one, right? Uh, and it's a double damn wrist lock. You know, there's actually another guy that I'm going to mention real quick. Headhunter Higgins. I can't remember his first name. Maybe Tom. Headhunter Higgins. He's in the Chicago area. A lot of respect for that guy because he's like reviving another Western wrestling art called Irish collar and elbow. A lot of respect for that guy. You can look him up on YouTube. You can probably train with him some too. He's trained with the Snake Pit guys out in Wigan, and he's also a world champ. He's also a world champion in catch wrestling as well. However, you know, you made it this far, so I'm, you know, still floating around the idea of really building an online community like a Discord of grassroots catch wrestling, Western wrestling. Uh, you know, I kind of want to start putting the guys in the gi, in the jacket, and winning jacket competitions just because we can, and as we've done it, and we can, and jacketed wrestling is a part of Western martial arts, just like it is in Eastern martial arts. So anyway, if you're interested in some super secret Discord, if you're interested in training with me, if you're interested in any kind of video topic, feel free to leave a comment. Thank you for your time. Essentially, like I said, you know, do your squats, do your push-ups, travel and train, put the reps in, study hard. Get you some good training partners. All right. That's what you can do to start being a catch wrestler. Until next time, peace.